kids are. Oh,
You live.
that's how they catch. See, I be playing sometimes right before we get started. Uh, the Dream Show live at an earlier time of the day.
Actually, we're
Actually,
actually
oh my
on
God,
time. We're just on time.
that's incredible. So that's what we got to start doing is just saying
Yeah, we need to push it
8:30.
back an hour.
It's got to be at 8:30, and then we'll push it back into the real time. That is incredible. Well, welcome everybody to the Dream Show live at 10 a.m. Eastern.
On the dot.
I, I'm feeling good now. I mean, I felt good before, like I wasn't like in a bad mood, but now I'm in a really good mood because we nailed it
This
accidentally.
is like when when your parents make you show up 3 hours before the flight, and you get there, and they're like, "Sir, would you like to step on first class in this earlier flight?"
That's the move, right? The early bird gets the worm, but sometimes that don't always work out. But making the idea
It's a
to be
different
2 hours
perspective from the
early,
werve.
we got on
From the
time.
werve. Okay.
I don't know. Perspectives are weird.
Perspective.
But anyways, we're gonna start early, I guess, because you have to go
Yeah, I
somewhere.
gotta do some wandering. I gotta do the thing and be there. If anybody's tuning in right this second, May 27th, that's next Tuesday. I'm gonna be at Red Wolf Martial
Tuesday.
Arts, and I'm gonna be
Tuesday.
teaching some of the magic. I don't know. I had a conversation last night that was interesting with a guy that just started jujitsu, so he's on like his fourth class, maybe
Hmm.
fifth class, and he was like, so, and he was like, English is his second language, and he was like communicating with me, and he was like talking to me along, and like he sits there and goes, like trying to think for the words, and he was like, so like how long, and like he paused and paused, and I was like, how long till like it feels like you don't suck? And I was like, it takes a while. And I was like thinking about it and like talking to him, and I was like, man, it's like 6 months before it doesn't feel like you're actually drowning. And even then, you're still tapping, you're still losing, but you realize at some point, to me, and I've seen like multiple people have this realization, is that like, oh, it's not that bad. I'm not dying. But then you got a whole nother like year and a half, 2 years after that, that it takes before there's any sort of like handle on it.
It's hard to say too, right? Because we want some sort of marker, some sort of
Yeah.
time marker that you can say we're used to being in school, and you have 2 years for this, or 4 years for that, or 8 years, kind of till 12 years. So you're used to at least having some sort of general idea of when somebody's good at something based off of like schooling. This ain't that.
Yeah.
This ain't
Yeah.
that. There's so many random variables that can come into it. Uh, it's just hard to know when you're good, and even when you're good, you're probably just only good where you are. Uh,
At the moment.
yeah, and then geographically maybe even
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
go to different rooms, you'll get a different response and things. Not saying that people don't travel and do well or whatever either, but just like in general, if you're only training with local people wherever you are, you may be pretty good for where you're at, and that's great. That's about what I am. But other times you can go and it's like, yeah, I went from the top guy in the room to maybe the bottom guy in the room.
Is that one of those influence just because of sheer volume of like where people can get different looks or different like uh levels?
It's like population, I guess, really
Just
overall.
popular, just a density thing.
It's
There's just
numbers,
more people. Yeah.
like high school football or whatever. Like smaller cities could have a good team, but a city that's triple the size of it just has access to more players.
Yeah.
So there'll just
Yeah.
be more players playing. So you might be just as good as you are, but there's 10 people like you there. But where you are, you might be the one or one of two, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And that's again, whatever. Not, I've been all these people a few times. And that's what makes this thing interesting, and that's what I think people say when they're saying that jujitsu forces you to be humble. It doesn't really like make you a good person or any kind of stuff like that. But there is an
Yeah.
element of that where you do, if you are doing these things, you will be routinely being humbled in some form or fashion.
So I mean, there's that humbling thing, and I guess kind of to go further on that point that you're saying is that I mean, it doesn't weed out everybody, you know, like
No, 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 not
you
really.
know, an asshole can get a black belt too, right?
Oh, easily. Sometimes it selects for that.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Like it just also depends on the programming and the. I mean, it's like everything
Hmm.
in that. You
Hmm.
know, it depends on the mountaintop that they went to get that information and why they did it.
Yep. Who did you get it from, and what kind of, that's just the way it is there, and good or bad, right, wrong, whatever, whatever. If we're just talking about like attitudes or whatever, we've seen the gambit of attitudes across jujitsu, from people being super nice and the most calm, welcoming, gentle people, to people that you're like, that is a madman, and I can't even really be, not like in a dangerous way, but just like their personality is like, oh, it's just too much for me. Just like they're
Yeah,
just, and
the
so
full range of
right, they
personalities.
exist
Yeah,
here just like everything else, right?
yeah.
And our game forces you to be right on top of each other, though. So
I
it gives a different.
No, yeah, I think that that's the idea, and also too, like I've said a long time, is it's more of like an honesty thing. Where if you're a jerk, and I roll with you, I know you're a jerk within the first like minute and a half.
Mhm.
Like I don't have to like talk to you. I don't have to. I can just feel the way that you roll and how you address the puzzle and how you do it with me is a huge reflection on your
Okay,
personality.
so then how long did that take you? That's one of the reads I think that tells somebody they're getting good, when you can read the person for who
Just
they
their
are.
person, you just know who they are
Oh
by how
shoot,
they feel.
you got to always be safe or whatever it is. But for some people, you can't let them get up and be moving around, or you can't let them get to certain ones of these kinds of rough them up kind of spots, because they're gonna, for instance, maybe muffle you,
Yeah.
put their hand over your mouth and stuff like that, which is not illegal or dirty or whatever. It's just a
No,
thing
yeah.
that people don't like, and it feels really uncomfortable. So you got to be real,
Which is funny to me. We're practicing the art of dismantling each other's body, and discomfort is considered a frownable move.
Yeah, there's an element of like the sporting side of things that always take away some element of the realness of things, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I think that it's the soccer mentality of the reaction that comes from the person that was just doing the aggressive act also. Does that make sense?
we say
Like
so.
say like the guy that's pushing on my face and doing all this, and then I get irritated and I throw like a hard club or whatever, and
Mm,
then that guy goes, "What?" And it's like I think that's where the like where do we draw the line? It's like where
oh yeah,
but and that's where the disagreement in jiu-jitsu becomes is that like you have the guys that know how to fight that are like, well, if you want to, we can turn this into a fight, but
yeah.
we're not fighting.
This is yeah.
So
I mean, and
like
that's yeah. Jiu-jitsu is not fighting, and a lot of people feel some kind of way about jujitsu or whatever. But it's always, interesting, the weirdness that people who maybe take jujitsu face-offs really serious, and feel like they're a threat during a jujitsu match, is like, yeah, you can win this match, and you might, like, I might tap, but it's like, it's just the kind of like you say, it's just a game,
yeah.
and it's fine. So it's like, it's fun. We're playing a game or whatever, but that's different than when you got to fight, and you can't really bluff somebody, and you really got to put hands on them. This is a lot different.
You actually have to make it hurt because they you
You better,
yeah,
you better, or
yeah.
you better have it under control. For instance, this weekend, Jay had Shields had his first MMA fight. He's a purple belt, uh,
Training with you
for
since the early days,
4 or 5 years now
Yeah,
at
yeah,
least.
yeah.
Um, so really strong, really athletic, really good. Uh, just doesn't have the reps in fighting.
Yeah.
Has lots of the reps in grappling matches and different things like that. So he has a fight with a guy who's from an MMA school. He's also 0-0, but he's more of a striker guy. Um, one of those kind of matchups early on that, you know, style versus style or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's what you should do then, though. I think
Y-
you should get plays against different styles. But I wish somebody had helped me and told me in the early days, like, take fights that help you
yeah,
learn.
yeah.
Don't just be like, I want to see how tough I am. Like,
You got to find that out first. You got to
but
find that
when
out
do you find
first.
that out?
I don't know exactly either. Right. That's the thing that I think maybe has to come when it comes. And that's where we'll go maybe here a little bit with this. Uh, he's good, strong, fast, athletic. Has been working striking, been doing some sparring and different things like that, or whatever it is, but never been in a fight, in a sport fight,
Yeah,
kind of situation.
yeah,
So you never know exactly what's going to happen. So early on, he goes out there, they're squaring off, standing, exchanging a little bit. Like he hits the dude pretty hard, you know. Um, moving again, start to whatever, but he's kind of standing in front of the guy a little bit too much, just not really like getting out of the way when you kind of just need to be moving. You know what I
mm.
mean?
Never standing there still.
Yeah, right. Maybe he's timing it up or whatever it was in that moment. He just hasn't been in there in that moment enough to understand why that's a thing. Because normally all they're going to do is grab him
Mm-hmm.
in that scenario, which is fine. But this guy punched him and knocked him down like in the first round, and it was like, oh god, here we go. Um, Amateur fight, they could stop it fast before he even gets a chance to see if he's going to fight. Just like it's a half a second when all this is going through my
Yeah,
mind or
yeah,
whatever it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
But he's resolved and gets up, after a second or whatever, and fights back. And you can see he's hurt though and tired, getting not tired, but like winded now because he's been fighting pretty hard when he comes back to the corner of there after the first round. And we're like in the corner and talking to him, hey, you got to move, can't be standing in front of him. And listen, like, you got to work to get your hands on him and get him down and like cover him. Cause he got him down, I think, once or twice in the first round a little bit, but wasn't able to keep him down because the guy was not going to stay down. He knew if he stayed down, he was going to lose. He's going against who they knew was a good grappler in a purple belt. And it's like, you know, anything but that. So he was scrambling and fighting and getting up, you know.
Yeah.
That's unusual for people who only do jujitsu. They don't really keep doing that for the whole time, you know.
Mm.
Well, second round comes out, he does better in that way. Still gets hit a little bit. Um, some opportunities for takedowns. He kind of gets him down or whatever, has some stuff there. But the dude again just getting up. Finally, Jay does kind of get his back, and then it's that weird spot, where you're almost seatbelt or whatever in a way, and I tell you guys, like, don't try to pull somebody
Yeah.
on, to get their back or whatever. You got to get them to go like face down,
Mhm.
like you want to belly them down if you can, and then that'll give you the reactions that you want or
Them trying to
better
prevent from
reaction.
being put belly down gives
Yes,
you the
because they
reactions that you
can't
need.
spin as easily,
Yeah.
and if they do, you're still kind of on top. Versus if I'm
As opposed to
pulling
going to
back,
air, they
we
have all
both
that
land
space
on
to
me.
spin.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Standing up and just like spiraling and flailing, just fighting for his life essentially.
Yeah,
You know,
a strong buck. Like
he's strong. Like
that's
Jay's
not.
strong,
Yeah.
and like this guy was probably equally strong in that way.
That's
Uh,
hard to hold on to a
Physical
sweaty,
strength.
shirtless guy that's
Hmm.
trying to do that barrel roll. Yeah.
Yep. And that was the thing with the gloves on now, and not used to having
Hmm.
those gloves on all the time, et cetera, et cetera. So it went deep. He's like suplexed the guy once, landed him 2 or 3 times, taking him down. Like
He got some
it's
highlights.
it's a cool highlight, man, but that was desperation.
No, I feel you.
Like
Most
that's
highlights are.
right, but that's what it says. Like it was deep. It wasn't
No, yeah,
what you might expect that was. Like if you only see those clips, it looks like, oh my god, he just kind of
for
destroyed
sure,
that dude or whatever it was. It was like, no, he was fighting for his life
for
in
sure.
there too. Like he was going hard,
Yeah,
and that dude was trying to win and he finally got him down, and was able to press him more forward, face down ish, and finish the choke and got the win. So
Yeah.
thankfully he was able to get all that experience in one fight. Being knocked down, getting back up and fighting, not being able to hold somebody down, having to take the break to go back to the stool or the corner, and then go back out again, finishing in a dominant position at the end of a round where you're like, oh my God, now I got to do it again, come
I
back,
got to get all the way back
all
to
the
that
back up
position.
or something, right? Again. And it took so long to do it now. Oh my, just like
I
the
just got him to
opportunity,
the ground.
the opportunity to break mentally presented itself a lot for a new
Mm-hmm.
fighter
Mm-hmm.
in that fight.
Mm-hmm.
So he got to prove a lot to himself, and that was really good. There was a lot of learning. Nobody wants. I don't want to see him get knocked down. I don't want to see him hurt. Whatever. All works out now because he was able to win still, and he's healthy, and you could talk about it, and the understanding there's better now because you've been in the situation, and so it makes more sense.
It's
Uh,
real.
yeah, and that it's just a different. It's different. It's different than jujitsu. You can use jujitsu in MMA, but it's not. It's not jujitsu. It's not wrestling. It's not grappling. Certain spots where you feel comfortable in these other environments will get you beat up. I mean, for instance, like not to pick on him either, but like when Bo Nickel was like kind of pressed against that cage in that weird spot, not
Yeah.
even a weird spot, but just like a vulnerable spot for him to get that knee to the ribs or whatever. If you're used to kind of being safe there and dominating that spot, and people aren't really like driving those knees in on you when you're getting a little taxed, that there it is, right? But if you know, but nobody ever does that. So you have to kind of be in that situation, unfortunately, sometimes to understand why that is always crucial. You're the outlier, bro. It's not worked yet. That's you know what I mean. Now you understand where that becomes more crucial.
Yeah.
And so an athlete like that would make the adjustment. That's it. So expect him to Jay to make adjustments and be better afterwards. But now the opponents get harder every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So that's the mountain. It's like it's
Yeah.
always up.
And I mean, it makes the training real. It makes it to where when you're doing something, there's a why behind it. There's a I have to do this because nothing prepares you for an MMA fight or for a like actual
Fight.
physical altercation because there's so much involved that you can't there is no pause button. There is no like, ow, you poked my eye. This is a fight. Like,
Yeah, yeah, and that stuff too, like the eye pokes or any kind of flopping or whatever. That's not like a guarantee that a referee's going to give you that out in a fight.
no, yeah, they
Um,
got to see it and acknowledge it.
that's sometimes people have tried to ask for it or whatever and didn't get it, right or
I didn't see
wrong.
it.
You
Yeah,
know what I mean? And then sometimes people didn't get it and they got beat up for it. Um,
protect yourself at all times.
so it's a
Because
weird, it's a fine line.
the thing that I think guys don't realize a lot of times in the sport aspect is that yeah, it can be an illegal blow or it can be an illegal move. It still has either the actual physical damage or just the psychological damage. I had a guy that we used to train with all the time that was an old school promoter in the Alabama scene, and he used to have a joke that's a little crude, but it's true. Is he used to say he's like the guy that kicks the other guy in the nuts wins 63% of the time,
Mm.
and he was like because he's like think about it. He's like if the first one's always a warning, and so he's like if I just crank off one time and kick you in the crotch, now every time I flinch towards that inside leg kick, in somewhere in your mind you're like uh-oh. And so he's just it's
It's true.
planting that bug is that yeah, oops, like it slipped and it hit, but there's still damage. The eye poke still
Mhm.
happened, it still did all that. And if we start getting into the argument that everybody in the community loves to have is like, well, if it's real life, and they poke you in the eye, nobody's stopping it. If they
Mm.
grab you by the hair, they hook you by the mouth, like nobody's gonna stop it. So you gotta like be able to continue through hardship. And
Some of
that
it, yeah, definitely is a thing.
well, and how do you train that? I've had this question in my mind for a long time for the MMA guys is how do you train that for the new generation without them actually going through it in the gym? Because that's the way that our generation tried to solve it. Is that you just fought wars in the gym and then you're like, oh, those four guys are tough enough.
Well, hopefully, I think the idea is to build the skill set first
Yeah.
and developing that toughness, or I don't even know if you can develop it. I think it's just one of those things like
You got it or you
you
don't.
do or don't,
Yeah.
and maybe you don't have to find that out in the gym always through a fight. You know, you can test people.
That's
I
scary to
believe
watch
as a
in a
coach
fight.
from conditioning, from whatever and stuff like that, to test their like mental toughness and physical, toughness in certain ways to uh, see that. I
Yeah.
think personally,
Yeah.
I believe that that pressure can be created in other ways. Like, and again, like getting dazed is different. Like if you're actually like scrambled and your brain's rattled or whatever, you know,
That's not what
that's what I'm
like
saying. So there's like a difference between somebody who's like you're getting to make a choice,
yeah.
and so
Yeah. Yeah.
you can put them in that position in other ways that doesn't require them to take brain trauma
What is
to
for
get
you as
there.
a coach, like if you're sitting there, because I know you're not primarily an MMA coach and you don't like put that out, like you're not like an MMA guy. Like I don't mean that offensive, I guess is what I'm saying.
Not really anymore. No, like I
Yeah,
not
yeah,
really.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. But like when you are looking at it, because I like to ask this question in that way to people that are more in that lane versus I know what the answer from the guy that's like an MMA coach. He's got to empower the people that he's got underneath him and give them the confidence that they're capable of it. Or as he helps them develop what they tap into. But like for you, when you're looking at that, how what is it them folding on reps? Is it them stopping or not doing the extra conditioning or the guy that's the road work? Like that's a telltale sign to me on a fighter is like the guy that understands the point of road work is just you just do it.
Yeah, it's stuff like that. It's shorting out on drills. It's like if there's a line, you stop right before it, or if there's something and you're not going through it, you're coasting in certain situations that you need to dig in. And it's been explained that this is a situation where you would have to dig in, like there's certain, obviously everything isn't like that. And that's the thing. It would need to come to a time where this is like you're being told this is, I'm challenging you to do this and stuff in lots of ways, but you can see the way that they're going to be lots of times how they act every day, like the way they treat the room, so to say. Um, if they hide from hard situations in regular kinds of training, sessions or whatever, then it's going to be
Yeah.
much easier to know they're going to do that same thing
In a fight.
if it gets really hard. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's that old quote about you don't like rise to the level of the competition, you fall to the level of your training.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can want to get as good as you can, but that unfortunately doesn't work like that. You fight the good person or you play the good people and you lose to them. And then that's where you can really learn from it after the fact. You don't really,
Yeah.
you can level up because you maybe didn't understand some of the stuff that's happening, right? And so that's the thing. It's hard, and as much as anybody, it's a long road
Yeah.
to get there, and lots of things can knock somebody off the path. Um,
And getting
almost
there doesn't necessarily like what does getting there mean?
it's not a place to stay.
Yeah.
It ain't a place to live.
It's not an
You
old
know,
it's not an
it's
old man there's not an old man country's club at
there's
the
not a
end of that
retirement
road. Yeah.
village. Yeah, there's not like houses and things that come for everybody. It's a full time job with part time wages most of the time at best. Um,
And then it's on you to do the work on what you get from the platform that you develop as that
as you
athlete.
yep,
As your
exactly.
yeah.
And everybody's different. This day and age is a lot different than we were, for sure.
It is all the way around. I was thinking about it the other day is I've gotten to the point and I think that it's a generational thing is I've gotten to a point where I've gotten to multiple sports and like industries where the big shifts are happening. Is that like when I got to college and we were playing football, like that was the first generation where it was changing the way that the NCAA acted, and they started treating them more and more like professional athletes, and like helping that pathway become a actual pathway versus like throwing 150 people into a hat and seeing which 11 come out. You know, it's there's more of a, and I mean it's from the stuff. This is why I got it. We've talked about this on the show before. That like this is why I got into the production and the like documentation side of the sport, is that providing these kinds of outlets for the athletes has changed the game, giving them the ability. Like, dude, I mean, Jay has the clips from his fight of like seeing that like hard dug down in like fight that he had to get those takedowns and to get to that point. And that's like a historical thing that we didn't have and nobody had. And
Not much.
now,
Yeah.
well, and just people didn't know how to leverage it. And, you know, especially in the community, but all throughout like society, people, that was lame. Like, why are you trying to like film yourself, or why are you trying
Poser.
to get attention? Like, are you trying to be like a, which I don't think that gets rid of the poser thing. I think that's a real thing. I think there's people that like can present something one way, but at the same time, I feel like the ones that win in that game are the ones that are the most authentic and the most like out there, as far as you can see the story develop, you can follow it. I think that's why people follow Peyton Manning, or you know, things like that, is that like they connect with it, and then that person continues to, whether they're professionally advised to or not, they continue to like put back into that ecosystem of, you know, their platform. And that's something that I think that a lot of fighters could take some lessons in and learn, that like you're your own media company, you're your own like ability. I mean, it's this what the
I think
whole
now it's
thing.
the thing, right? I think now
Yeah,
that's pretty common knowledge, at least that's gonna be
it's
one of the
knowledge, but they should be doing it.
better, right? But that's everything,
Yeah,
and maybe
yeah,
that's what's gonna separate who is and isn't.
for
Sometimes,
sure. It always did, but it was just further removed. The ones that got the media teams, that's what I said when I was saying like Peyton Manning, whether it was professionally advised, where a guy like that definitely has a media team, definitely has people telling him like, oh yeah, you should post this, you should do this. And then if you ever pay attention to, if we're talking about like how to like sell yourself and sell things, the ones that do it the best, they, anytime somebody's talking about them in the culture of whatever they're plugged into, anytime their name's coming up, the good ones just always divert you back to like, oh yeah, we see you have an album out. You know,
mm,
any news is good news.
mm, I don't agree with that
I
personally,
mean,
but
well, okay.
I'm not that kind of person though. But yes,
Yeah,
I agree to a degree with certain people. But
you can go as deep as you want to into that rabbit
I don't
hole.
think a lot of the news coming from a certain rap mogul's trial is good news.
Yeah. Well, I mean, which one?
Right,
I,
right,
I thought of three off the top of my head,
and that's
but
maybe some of that point too. You know, it's just it is it's the times are different now a little bit, and
for sure.
I think there's stuff that used to be okay that people thought was cool is not cool. It's not okay. Um, and maybe it never was okay, but they thought they would never get caught because there wasn't this much accessibility for stuff, or people weren't going to be able to connect with each other as easily about things, or there wouldn't be a record somehow of some of
Yeah,
these things that would get out.
it's an
And
interesting time for debauchery for sure. As far as like whatever people used to engage with, if you're talking about the party scene, or you're talking about like anything that was like wild and crazy, when people talk about, wow, we had a crazy weekend. Well, I mean, as a culture, we've glorified that for a while.
Hmm.
So why is it surprising that like, oh, like some of these people were really like that? It's like, yeah, some like comedy has truth to it, guys.
Yes, there's element, there's layers, right? And so I guess
Yeah.
you have to never know, or you never know really how deep maybe some
I
stuff is
mean,
or
as
not.
long
But
as humans,
whatever.
I don't think that anything changes necessarily ever, because as long as recorded history and humans have existed, there has been a layer of humanity that wants to engage in debauchery and wants to do crazy, wild things that you're not supposed to do for whatever reason. Like, there's a litany of reasons that you
Hmm.
could say, like, why does somebody want to do something like that? Well,
No,
I
yeah,
don't know. Like, like,
you're
why does
right.
anybody do anything?
That's definitely written all throughout time.
But I think one of the biggest lessons in that is that, I mean, one of the clips we've posted on social media lately, where we were talking about the like what success looks like and things like that, is that I think some of where people get that power is they are never told no, for one, which we all know that.
Mhm.
But then it becomes a point that money really does make the world go round, and people really are motivated by bottom lines. People have prices. And so it's like, as long as we keep in that lane to where that's always going to be a leverage that people can have, and there's going to always be fame, there's always going to be power, people are always going to struggle for that, and people are going to leverage that for like nefarious purposes.
Mhm.
So I mean, I I'm
No,
not
that's
one
human
that thinks
nature
that it
for a lot
changes.
in a
Yeah.
lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the things you know work against if you're trying to be a good person. I think you work to avoid doing things that are not good in whatever in lots of ways. But the want for power and the want for stability and the want maybe stability first and then power after there's too much stability or whatever, or maybe you feel like the power is the stability is a part of this thing, and we're playing it in a different way now, I guess, with the
Yeah.
countries and the presidents and things like that going and doing all these different things, but it's still basically just
Well, I mean,
that
exactly what you're saying. Did it
self-preservation.
really change though? Did, like,
No,
I
it's
mean,
just
we just
yeah.
changed the names of what we call kings and queens, or like dukes and like, but there it all still exists. It all still, and it's never really gonna leave. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's the one thing that I learned a long time ago, and then had to learn myself a few times, is that, like, my dad used to tell me about the fact that, like, you know you want to see the real motivation as to why people are like that, and when they are, is like, stand there at 2:30 a.m. or 3 a.m. at one of those, like at a party, or at any party, any bar, anywhere, and just kind of look around and be sober, and just look around, and it's just people are trying to get out of their own, like, way. They're trying to get out of their own, like, body, their own thing, and like,
Mm.
to circle all the way back around to like the jujitsu and the fighting and the like physical side of things, like, that's everybody's desperate for some sort of a like release, and that, for humans and society, has been a pressure release valve for a long time, and acts of debauchery. For some reason, I like that word, and I've used it
You're on it. You're
several
on that.
times.
That's the dream show word of the day: debauchery. Brought to you by the North Face. Now they don't endorse this podcast. They don't sponsor any. They don't like the words we say or
Yeah,
whatever.
they don't. However that goes, they don't agree or
They really
disagree
didn't
with.
endorse that segment that we just created, but they could. They could if they want to.
So, here's something that I've seen in jujitsu news and like gossip that I feel like we can't directly get in trouble for revealing.
Uh oh.
Have you seen a few guys accidentally spill the beans on social media that they're filming the Ultimate Grappler thing this weekend or this week? Or is
I've
that
seen.
public knowledge?
I don't. So I don't know. I'm not in the know.
Brandon's in here. He knows juicy details.
Who's
Brandon, you know
Brandon?
anything?
Who is that?
Oh, I this man named Brandon McCatherine.
The man who knows.
I mean, I feel like that if anybody knows, Brandon
Is he
knows.
in the chat? I don't see it.
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
saw him
You know.
pop up in the chat.
You know, behind the chat, dog. I ain't trying to. You know. You ain't tell me he was in there.
Y'all have to do some really, really good commenting to
You gotta
get
do some
pulled into
good
the chat
chatting.
for Steven, because we don't let Steven read the comments.
We'll be here all day. But yeah, I saw people
Oh, he said
posting.
he definitely knows some things. So, I
So what's
mean,
up?
do
Pat,
tell.
pat yourself in. Let Isaac send you a link. Come
I
on
mean,
in.
we can. The here.
But yeah, so I've seen some people for sure that are somewhere about to go dark for a few days, and they've been really hyped up, talking a lot of very good things about
I've,
the future and things like that without saying anything directly. And I was curious if this was a like a CJI thing or what it could be, but I think it's definitely leaning towards it looks like it's tug time.
that's what I feel like, and I don't know. I have. I'm excited to see what they make and to see how it is. How much do you think that it's just going to look like Ultimate Grappler or Ultimate Fighter, just grappling?
So I believe that would be the easiest way for them to do it.
I wouldn't see why not.
They've already got that, and people are mostly familiar with that. So in that way, I can see for the UFC audience, it could just kind of blend in and bleed right into what they already think. And along with the rule set or yeah, the rules basically the point system, 10 point, 10-9 rounds, all that kind of stuff is more familiar in those same ways. So it fits that model.
Right.
I haven't watched an Ultimate Fighter in quite a long time, so I'm not exactly sure
Even what the
what
format
they
looks
look
like
like
anymore.
anymore. You know how
Yeah,
different it
yeah,
is if they're still
yeah.
doing a lot of the stuff they used to do. But man,
It's it swung hard into the reality TV, if I remember correctly, the last time I
right.
was watching it.
Yeah, that was where and again, that's TV, right? That's the business. And if you
That's
want
what
to,
sells
exactly, you got to kind of do some of that stuff to get in there, maybe.
for sure.
My thing is, I'm really interested to see what happens because we've done this ourselves, and I want to see what it would be like on another, like with another take,
Format.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And we saw, I guess, the other one that Flo did that all those guys were on too, but that was longer, right? Wasn't that a longer time, or was it? I don't remember.
I feel like it was, and I can't.
That was definitely more like a traditional-ish Ultimate Fighter kind of show.
Yeah,
It
like
felt like
fight
back then, yeah. They
activity.
did the bull
Right.
wrestling
Yeah,
thing or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
which is
Yeah.
that's the format, right? But I think I don't know, personally, don't like the rule set.
Yeah, I've felt like everybody just keeps regurgitating a different rule set that creates the same problem where I have to sit there with my aunt and explain to her why that position is worth 2 points.
Well, I don't think that's what they're doing though. They're going to do the 10 point must, the 10-9s, and then they're going to
Which
base
I
it
feel
off
like
of that.
people don't agree with that in MMA.
They
So
score
how is that
exactly.
going to go with
So that's
grappling?
what I'm saying. So for me, it just kind of creates that same kind of scenario now to where we're going to have these things. And again, maybe for TV, that's okay. They like to have that because no news is, good news is whatever. News is news. Like you said, whatever you said
Yeah,
earlier, I don't know. People talking about it. So at least they're talking about it, even if they're talking about a bad decision. And then
for
they can
sure.
run it back now and they can capitalize again because now Isaac thinks he can beat me again, but everybody knows it's not true. But they'll pay for me to squash
Right,
him one more
right.
time.
Yeah. I don't think I don't think it's necessarily wrong, but it's that everybody that keeps going though, like, well, MMA has a scoring system, so let's just apply that to jiu-jitsu. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. When's the last time you said at a like local MMA tournament? Because nobody agrees on those rules.
And yeah, I just don't. Yeah, it's just not the one for me. The
Yeah,
rule set. You know what I mean? I hope it goes well for everybody that's there and they can be successful and everybody's getting what they're looking for out of this deal. all around because it's monumental for us as a culture and as a
Yeah,
group,
just
you
them as an
know.
organization, them getting involved, it elevates everybody. Like it's a rising tide type of situation in that.
Hmm.
Because I mean,
And it's nice to feel like you could have had some part in helping
for sure.
do that, like more directly, even than just like being an active competitor and stuff like that. Sometimes, like I did when I was fighting back in the day, it's like, yeah, we kind of helped set some stuff up for that. But it feels like with the PGF stuff being such an active part of that, we really did do a lot to help push this further too. Like
For sure.
a lot of things are being done that we did either, I don't know who's first on anything. It doesn't really matter, right? It's just the ideas that are out there.
I've been in the room
Um,
multiple times where I've watched things get done that were already out there and already on the internet and already created as
and felt
the
original,
yeah, yeah.
right? So, and so it's just that it's that thing, right? So there's a lot of it, and again, we're talking about some of it again, going like the CJI thing going on now. Some of that stuff they're leaning into. I think little bit more of the kayfabe. They're playing the game, which is a thing that I've been trying to do.
Advocating for.
I've been trying to do this for so long, trying to figure out how to get it to work and get people to play. That's where the skits with Kevin, like the spa day skit with Kevin, the
Oh
stalling
yeah.
skit with Kevin, like there's that's where those kind of ideas come from. That's where people are like, oh, the way I react to what people are saying on the mic and stuff like that. That's just me, being studied in professional
Mhm.
wrestling and playing the gimmick sometimes and knowing, at least feeling what I think is entertainment out of the moment more so than, being really stoic and trying to create that kind of pomp and
Yeah,
like, that kind of situation. That's not us. That's not our vibe, right? And so that's okay. And that's a thing. The Olympics are awesome. I love the Olympics,
for
but
sure.
this
Yeah,
ain't that.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so
We brought more of the entertainment value. I think that until the PGF started running and the qualifiers and everything that we did on the front of just the community of having competition, because that's what this was birthed from. Like this came from there wasn't anything going on, and so
yeah,
everybody that was involved started something so that there was something.
yeah,
And now once it got started, it was so alone and unique that it still remains that like there is nothing else that kind of like is the same. And so it's not even really like what's better, what's worse, what's like it's just completely different.
yeah. It's a different thing. And I think now we're getting more people who are similarly minded in ways because
Yeah.
like I said, I've been kind of pressing on the wrestling thing for a little while, and then like we get Raph in, who's a big time wrestling nerd too, who's part of the thing now with the pre-show, and he's there, so he's like he's in the vibes and talk to him about stuff, and then Wallow's a big wrestling nerd too, so it's cool to have like more of us together in that way because y'all aren't
Yeah.
really that, like you, Keelan, Brandon, none of you guys are really like from that cloth, really.
No, I
Uh,
grew up around it. I like that some of my like early childhood memories and stuff was like I had a buddy that like his dad and grandfather were like super into it. And so like I remember that.
yeah,
But at the same time there was like the other side that it was also the 90s, and so I was on that side of like, oh,
yeah, you're a little later
yeah,
like to
yeah,
the game
yeah.
like that.
And it was the era that everybody was kind of uncomfortable with. Like
Yeah,
everybody
always
was kind of like,
felt that.
should we be watching this?
Yeah, in the late '80s, it was like to me it was and then now looking at the history of things like Southern wrestling and Georgia wrestling was a lot more like fighting.
Yeah,
It was
okay.
a lot more real than like the WWF style, which was more child friendly, kid friendly, clean cut kind of stuff like that. That's where
Gamey, yeah.
yeah, and then the Georgia champion that was around here that we saw a lot was more rough and like fighting like and stuff. Uh, so that's just a funny like thing to kind of think about with it too, because that's what I thought until like Hulk Hogan came out and turned on Randy Savage, you know.
You were
and
sold
bash
out.
at the beach. Dude, that really messed up my moral compass a little bit in life.
when he
Because
turned.
I mean, there were signs that I probably was on the spectrum or something for a long time or whatever, but like that sense of like right and wrong and like the good guy, bad guy stuff or whatever was like I believe that, like I
Yeah,
believe that there was this good guy who was, altruistic and did,
saving the
he's
day
a
and
good guy,
yeah,
whether whatever wins or loses or whatever, like he's a good guy.
yeah.
Period. Like that's just what it is. Like everybody else changes or what, you know what I mean? There's been all these other things that happen, but my whole life, Hulk Hogan's been a good guy, the good guy,
the the definition of it. I
right?
ate my vegetables because of it.
Yeah, like everything wanted to be like that.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, that was I think I was like 12 or 13 then. So like I was
yeah.
old enough to kind of know even that wrestling
It
was
started
it
separating
was
around. Yeah,
performative, right? But
yeah,
still that this guy was a good guy though.
yeah.
Right, I was
This
still young.
character is a
Yeah,
good
as a
character.
person,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
I thought that
yeah,
he was a person still. Like
yeah.
he's, some of
You
the
hadn't
people,
separated the man from
yeah,
the
some
act.
guys played their self,
Yeah,
and some guys played a cartoon character kind of person or whatever.
right.
They made the cartoons about him though, is what I was, like to my young mind,
Yeah. You that was actually what he actually
that was
believed
him.
everything he
Mhm.
said.
That's right. Yep.
Funny enough, you
A
and the
mark.
rest of society did too.
Yeah, I was a mark for sure. And so like that's what I'm saying though, is like there's an element of that storytelling that like sits with me,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like I
So
get
when
it
guys
now.
in combat sports find it, like,
I get it. I
yeah,
get it. And I didn't, and I always kind of got it, but it was taboo to like wrestling back in the day, because
mm,
you might do a fake fight if you did wrestling.
yeah. If you
Like,
liked wrestling, like, oh,
dope, dope.
you'll take a dive.
Yep. That's what at least there was like a lot of
The
chatter
legends,
about
yeah.
stuff like that, or they
Because
would at
you
least,
came in right after the Pride era, and well,
yeah, the good, like right around the Ultimate Fighter stuff
yeah,
really kind of got it for me. 2008 is when I really got into it, like
yeah.
personally, but I've been watching it for a few years at that point too. But yeah, like, yeah, there's a lot of that stuff. So I don't know where we were going.
We were talking about the state of the union of the jiu-jitsu community
Oh yeah, the Ultimate Grappler.
and
There
the
are people
Ultimate
there. Yeah,
Grappler.
I think it's going down this week. I think they're
You
recording it this
think
week. I have
allegedly?
no good resources, and I'm not going to tell anybody his name that I think
No,
has spilled some beans, but because they didn't say anything directly to me. Uh, but
but they
yeah,
did say it in a public forum to where I'm comfortable with saying that it's a not confirmed rumor.
something is going down for 10 days in Vegas, and it's not us, and it's not CJI.
Nice. There you go.
So
Do
I
with
haven't
that
heard
news what
anything
you
else.
will.
I just haven't heard of anything else going on big time out there like that for jujitsu stuff.
Nothing other than jujitsu
Been
happens.
tugged, you got to be tugging it up this week.
Yeah,
You know, I
So
wonder how they release it and all. That'd be interesting. But yeah, good luck to everybody. Hope everybody's gonna blow
ha-
up.
yeah, I
You know,
hope everybody's happy with their
yeah,
contracts and everybody gets in and
whatever it
gets what
is.
they
Yeah, I don't
wanted.
know.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
like, I'm excited for them. It's just not my thing, which is okay. It's.
Yeah. No, I see. I just didn't expect that close.
I mean, yeah, it's just like I don't want to sound like overly either way about it. I'm pretty neutral
When
about the
you-
thing as a
when you
whole. I think it's good as a whole, but I'm not really into it personally.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I
You know
feel
what I
you. That's
mean?
a much more nuanced way to state it, but that just made me laugh from your earlier statement of being like, well, there were signs. And you
Right.
just did this whole spiel about how great and all these different things, and you just go, yeah, but it's not really my thing.
But I can understand the goodness of it.
Right. That's your
Right.
evolution.
I
You
can
can see
understand.
past why you're
Yeah.
like, well, I don't know why you like that, but
Yeah. If I didn't like it before in the past, then it was stupid that anybody else did. And it didn't make any sense. And now it makes sense.
as to
That
why. It's like,
they could,
oh,
like, yeah,
you feel joy.
it's okay, man. I don't
All
understand
right.
that, but it's okay for you.
So my heart out. I'm
Are
knocking
you
on it.
are you knocking on
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. So did you have one last segment for me?
Yes. So real or fake? Mexican history.
Here
Brought
we
to you
are.
by the North Face.
Hola.
Okay. True or false? The color TV was invented in Mexico.
True.
How do you know that?
At the very least, the guy that came up with the technology was Mexican. I just remember reading this story, and that's all the information I have.
That is correct.
Boom.
Hmm. Okay. I wasn't sure. I thought that one might be like weird enough that you might think, oh, he's
Do
trying
you
to
know who I
like
am?
on the run. You know what I'm saying? They'll give you one that's like close to what you might think, and you're like, that's too obvious.
I specifically read that story, but I don't remember any of the details
It's
other than the
exactly what
fact
you
that it
said.
was made here.
This dude from the technology was created there. I don't know that
Yeah,
the
yeah.
actual whole
Like the
thing would
actual unit that
Mhm.
everybody got to use and whatnot. I don't know if that's what came here, but I'm pretty
and
sure that like
created the technology
yeah,
is Mexican.
yeah,
I could probably get his name real quick. That would be nice to do, I guess.
yeah. That's there's all kinds of cool stuff like that that like got invented here or got adapted and didn't really even get stolen. It just got like merged into the like ether. Like people, it's pretty cool. Like one thing that
Guillermo Gonzalez Camarena
Camarena, that's a powerful name.
patented a color television system in the 1940s.
Nice.
There you go.
And the more you
Lots of
know,
rich history in Mexico. Lots of rich
tons,
history.
tons.
Um,
Turns out Mexicans built everything. That's a joke that I've frequently heard here.
they say that a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like, man, I don't know if you can say that.
No, like that.
Okay.
That's a sense
Okay.
of pride. Is and what I mean by that is that like the joke that I heard that was they were talking about the fact that like L.A. and like all of California used to be parts of Mexico,
Mm,
and most of everything got built on top of things that were already built. Right? We that's already established out there that cities are built on
Tartaria.
top of other cities. Yeah, yeah. So
Whoa.
every like so they're like yeah. The Mexicans were there for it first. They built everything. It's like you see, like there's the Cat Williams bit, I think, or no, maybe it's not Cat Williams. Either way, there's a comedy bit that I've seen going around recently where they talk about nobody's questioning who built the pyramids here. Everybody's like, who built the pyramids in Egypt? And then there's an equal amount of them here, and everybody's like, oh no, we know who built that. So like it's impressive. I've watched buildings just go overnight here, and you're just like, oh hey, that wasn't there yesterday.
It's
It's
interesting.
impressive.
It's very interesting. And I think people maybe forget that the world used to be connected.
For
And
sure. There's
so
always been imaginary lines drawn by like extremely wealthy people to keep their wealth inside those lines they've drawn. But yeah,
I said that we don't know how old stuff is. And
for sure.
so when the earth was different before the any or polar shifts or whatever, like the plates turned or whatever it is, like when
Pangea.
right. That's it looks like that was a real thing. I'm not I'm not smart enough to refute that. But if that's true, then yeah, why isn't it possible that some of those people are the same people, but now it's been such a long time that they don't look the same or whatever, you know what I mean? The breeding of people have changed throughout millennia. We don't look the same, I guess.
Maybe we're the aliens.
You got to go. So we better stop.
I was fixing to say. All right. Thanks for tuning
I was
in.
ready. I was ready for that one. Then I had to take a breath.
Thanks for tuning in. If
Yeah,
you're
thank y'all.
in the East Alabama area, May 27th, I'm going to
Ooh,
be doing a seminar, and we're doing that at 6:15 p.m. We're training, we're rolling, we're hanging. Come hang out. Red Wolf School of Martial Arts.
yeah, and if you want to be featured on the PGF Insiders show, send us your clips to pgfinsiders@gmail.com to be featured. If we like it, we'll post it. It could be funny, it could be good, it can be what I don't want to see any bad injuries. personally, and I won't be the one looking at them. So if you send anything weird, it'll all go to Wallow. But send us some clips, and that was probably just really bad to do that. But I think it's going to be fun, and we'll feature you guys on the show. We want to talk about some of the people that like us. So if you're watching this and you watch that show, then doubly want to get you featured on that thing, because who knows, you might be the next PGF star or not.
Hey, all you can do is make a highlight. Make
You
a
might be
highlight or
able to,
be one.
yeah, you might be able to tug your way through.
On that note, thanks for